Good afternoon and welcome to our afternoon read aloud. As you know, we're reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We're almost done with the book, and I hope you are enjoying these videos. Doing these read alouds and reading these classic children's books is one of my favorite parts of teaching. I wanted to finish Charlie. I know it's a little hard to do it through the computer like this, but if it's something you enjoy, let me know, because I'll do another one after this. And I know I enjoy it, but I know you're just kind of listening to me read. Not many pictures in this book, but I would love some feedback. Is this working? Is this something that the kids are liking or not? Then I'll determine if I'll read another book. So where we left off, Mike TV was shrunk, remember? And he was in his dad's palm because he went into the machine that would send you through the television. And then the dad put him in his pocket, and Willy Wonka said, "Don't worry, we'll just stretch him out, but it'll be really thin." And then the TV family went away, Oompa Loompas shooed them away, sang their song. So now how many children are left? There's just Charlie. And I want you to think back towards the beginning. And remember, why did Willy Wonka do this golden ticket thing? Why? What was his reason? Did we ever really find out why? Remember, no one else was ever in the factory. He had it all shut down. No one would come in or out. And then he decided to do this contest where he would hide the golden tickets in chocolate bars. And people were going crazy trying to find the golden tickets. And then the children found them. They went in, and the children started disappearing one by one. They were naughty children. They weren't listening. There was always something. They were whiners, or they were brats, or they ate too much chocolate, or they watched too much TV, or they chewed too much gum. And then we had little Charlie, who was just struggling to get by, and he was so grateful and appreciative. So I just want you to think, why was Mr. Wonka doing this? And I think we're going to find out the real reason why coming up. And I just want you to have that in your mind. Like, what was his point? So it's only Charlie left. Chapter 28, Only Charlie Left. "Which room shall it be next?" said Mr. Wonka as he turned away and darted into the elevator. "Come on, hurry up, we must get going. And how many children are there left now?" Little Charlie looked at Grandpa Joe, and Grandpa Joe looked back at Charlie. "But Mr. Wonka," Grandpa Joe called after him, "there's only Charlie left now." Mr. Wonka swung round and stared at Charlie. There was a silence. Charlie stood there holding tightly onto Grandpa Joe's hand. "You mean you're the only one left?" Mr. Wonka said, pretending to be surprised. "Why, yes," whispered Charlie. "Yes." Mr. Wonka suddenly exploded with excitement. "But my dear boy," he cried out, "that means you've won." He rushed out of the elevator and started shaking Charlie's hand so ferociously it nearly came off. "Oh, I do congratulate you," he cried. "I really do. I'm absolutely delighted. It couldn't be better. How wonderful this is. I had a hunch, right from the beginning that it was going to be you. Well done, Charlie, well done. This is terrific. Now the fun is really going to start. But we mustn't dally. There's even less time to lose now than there was before. We have an enormous number of things to do before the day is out. Just think of the arrangements that have to be made and the people we have to fetch. But luckily for us, we have a great glass elevator to speed things up. Jump in, my dear Charlie, jump in. You too, Grandpa Joe, sir. No, after you, that's the way. Now then, this time I shall choose the button we are going to press." Mr. Wonka's bright, twinkly blue eyes rested for a moment on Charlie's face. So we know how Willy Wonka shakes someone's hand, he just doesn't let go. "Hi, nice to meet you, I'm Willy Wonka." He's crazy. Here is a picture of him. So he said, "That means you've won." Do you know what did Charlie win? There was nothing. I didn't know this was a contest of someone's gonna win. So I think we're figuring out what the purpose of this was. What was Willy Wonka's purpose for putting in all those golden tickets? What did Charlie win? Something crazy is going to happen now, Charlie thought, but he wasn't frightened. He wasn't even nervous. He was just terrifically excited. And so was Grandpa Joe. The old man's face was shining with excitement as he watched every move that Mr. Wonka made. Mr. Wonka was reaching for a button high up on the glass ceiling of the elevator. Charlie and Grandpa Joe both craned their necks to read what it said on the little label beside the button. It said, "Up and Out." Up and out, thought Charlie. What sort of room is that? Mr. Wonka pushed the button. The glass doors closed. "Hold on," cried Mr. Wonka. Then wham! The elevator shot straight up like a rocket. "Yippee!" shouted Grandpa Joe. Charlie was clinging to Grandpa Joe's legs, and Mr. Wonka was holding onto the strap from the ceiling. And up they went, up, 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 straight up this time, with no twistings and no turnings, and Charlie could hear the whistling of the air outside as the elevator went faster and faster. Yippee! Shouted Grandpa Joe again. Yippee! Here we go! Grandpa Joe is loving this. Faster! Cried Mr. Wonka, banging the wall of the elevator with his hand. Faster! Faster! If we don't go any faster than this, we shall never get through. Through what? Shouted Grandpa Joe. What have we to get through? Aha! Cried Mr. Wonka. You wait and see. I've been longing to press this button for years, but I've never done it until now. I was tempted many times. Oh yes, I was tempted. But I couldn't bear the thought of making a great big hole in the roof of the factory. Here we go, boys. Up and out. Where is this elevator going? He just said a hole in the roof of the factory. And remember, this is a magical elevator. It's going straight up through the roof. I wonder where Willy Wonka is going. But you mean, shouted Grandpa Joe, you don't really mean that this elevator... Oh, yes I do, answered Mr. Wonka. You wait and see. Up and out. But it's made of glass, shouted Grandpa Joe. It'll break into a million pieces. I suppose it might, said Mr. Wonka, cheerful as ever, but it's pretty thick glass all the same. The elevator rushed on, going up and up and up, faster and faster and faster. Then suddenly, crash! And the most tremendous noise of splintering wood and broken tiles came from directly above their heads. And Grandpa Joe shouted, Help! It's the end! We're done for! And Mr. Wonka said, No, we're not. We're through. We're out. Sure enough, the elevator had shot right up through the roof of the factory and was now rising into the sky like a rocket. And the sunshine was pouring in through the glass roof. In 5 seconds, they were 1,000 feet up in the sky. The elevator's gone mad, shouted Grandpa Joe. Have no fear, my dear sir, said Mr. Wonka calmly, and he pressed another button. The elevator stopped. It stopped and hung in midair, hovering like a helicopter, hovering over the factory and over the very town itself, which lay spread out below them like a picture of a postcard. Looking down through the glass floor on which he was standing, Charlie could see the small faraway houses and the streets and the snow that laid thickly over everything. So this elevator is insane. It's actually hovering in the air. So if you can imagine, and I like to just visualize a story, that's what we do when we read. We picture what's going on. So they're in an elevator with all glass, so they can see out of it and below them, and it's hovering in the air. So it's like a helicopter. It's going up, and they are looking down. They're way up in the sky. I would be terrified if I was going to put myself in the story. Another strategy we do, I would be terrified. I wonder how you would feel. Willy Wonka seems to say it's going to be okay, so maybe we'll trust him. It was an eerie and frightening feeling to be standing on a clear glass high up in the sky. It made you feel that you weren't standing on anything at all. Are you all right? Cried Grandpa Joe. How does this thing stay up? Candy power, said Mr. Wonka. 1 million candy power. Oh, look, he cried, pointing down. There go the other children. They're returning home. That's the end of our chapter. Here's the picture. So if we look closely... Oh, we can't really see them. That's just them in the elevator. So now they're looking down, and then they notice the children are going home. So those children are actually okay. They made it out of the factory. They're going home, so that's good to know, because I was a little worried about them. And we're still not sure. What did Charlie win? Mr. Wonka said he won something, and why did he take the elevator out of the factory into the sky? So I have some questions, and we should always be asking questions while we read. Hopefully the next chapter will answer them, and watch tomorrow for chapter 29.